I'm at one of India's premier laboratories, the National Environment Engineering Research Institute in Nagpur, and I have with me Dr. Atul Vaidya, the director of NEERI. He's a specialist on handling and managing hazardous waste. As India grows, and this year we will become the world's largest population nation, hazardous waste is only going to increase. Uh, Dr. Vaidya,
Yes.
how does one define hazardous waste
Yeah.
and how does one control?
Uh, it's a hazardous waste for a general public. We can say there is a criteria of hazardous waste, but we call it corrosive, reactive, explosive, and toxic. So that is called as CREAT criteria. For a common man, if it is something is corrosive, something is reactive, something is explosive, or something is toxic. So this is hazardous waste in general. But from regulation point of view, there are two schedules in the hazardous waste management and handling rules, that is 2016. The first criteria is that it is indicative, that they call it schedule 1. So there are 39 or odd processes which are mentioned, that these processes do produce waste which can be hazardous waste. Schedule 2 elaborates how something is to be defined based on the analysis of hazardous waste. And there are different components, metallic components, organic components, pHs, and everything is there, and the concentration limits are defined. So if any waste is having exceeding concentration of some particular component with respect to one component, that waste is considered as hazardous waste.
One of the sites where you have worked is the site for the Bhopal gas tragedy, where we know that there was the gas leak from the methyl isocyanate in 1984, which kind of went away. But there is also issue of a legacy waste at Bhopal gas tragedy site. Tell me about your work, and is the waste still hazardous, and what should we do about it?
Now, there are two aspects. One is leak was basically MIC. Of course, I was student that time. It was old story. But then whatever I could gather from the information, but the factory was generating or producing pesticides. So naturally, any pesticide industry would generate hazardous waste. So that waste was lying there. And in 84, there was no regulation as such. And industry was closed by that time. So the waste which is lying there, it was analyzed much later on, but then yes, it was considered as hazardous waste, and it has to be disposed as per the norms of the rules. There are two norms. One is if the calorific value of the waste is more than 2500 kilocalories per kg, it has to be incinerated. And this particular waste which is lying there means which was collected by the government, and it is put under one safe shade.
There is a shed in which I have seen that myself.
You also have seen. So it has been collected throughout the industry premises, and it has been put at one place. And this has to be disposed in the incineration because of the calorific value and the other hazardous waste. It is considered as hazardous waste. It may have something to do with the process, we don't know. But right now it is considered as hazardous waste, and it has to be incinerated, and the efforts are going on because it has to be done in the same state as per the rules. There cannot be a transboundary movement of hazardous waste. So efforts are being made to incinerate it within the facilities available within Madhya Pradesh.
But is it still, as somebody who's looked at hazardous waste, is it really hazardous? It is leaking? Is it going into the groundwater? What is your understanding?
My understanding is that it is now been collected safely, and it is put under the shade where all precautions are being taken, that there is no leachate or nothing is going out of that to the environment as such. But yes, it is a waste lying there. It is stored there. Now we cannot say it is lying there. It is stored there, which has to be disposed as per the rules.
You have also worked on mercury, and mercury, most of us have been familiar with the thermometers where you used to use, and earlier there was no disposal rules around that. What is your work on mercury?
Mercury, there are two issues. One is analysis of the mercury. Then mercury has to be disposed or recovered. So disposal, mercury is supposed to be toxic metal as compared to other metals. Chromium is also toxic. There are many metals which are considered to be toxic. Mercury is, and because of Minamata disease, it has given a typical footage to mercury. And now there is Minamata Convention. So everybody has to phase out mercury. So it is a legal instrument, and all countries are bound by that. So how to dispose mercury, one thing, how to analysis mercury pollution, and then how to dispose that safely. Because mercury, if it is in elemental form, it can be recovered by retorting or some thermal processes. Otherwise, it has to be converted to some stable compound like sulfates, and then it has to be properly disposed of. But best way is mercury is being phased out as per the Minamata Convention, except few sectors where it is allowed. Rest of the industries or uses are actually banned. Means it will be banned in coming years, and we have to slowly phase out from the mercury. So
You also worked on arsenic.
we did work on arsenic. I will quote one typical example of arsenic. I am talking of now. This is a different kind of problem which hazardous waste pose. One is the contamination and the, like we said in Bhopal. But here the problem is was the arsenic solution was used in the industry as anti-corrosive or some kind of catalytic activity. Now this solution was phased out because of presence of arsenic. Industry or the processes realized, and this was to be replaced by vanadium containing vanadium containing solution. But now industry was not in a position to know what to do with that around 8 to 10% of arsenic. It's very huge quantity, or you can say very high concentration of arsenic. And the industry was keeping that arsenic, almost 600 cubic meters of that arsenic liquid waste safely stored in some tank. But that has to be, it is a kind of live bomb. If something goes wrong, arsenic would go out. So problem was referred to NEERI because there was no solution to this problem. So we started working with the chemistry of the arsenic, and then we developed a process to stabilize arsenic in a stable form, because arsenic has two forms. One is stable, one is not stable, and non-stable form is always risky and toxic. Then we have to ensure that arsenic doesn't go back to non-stable form. So that is another chemistry into that. And then this has to be solidified. It was in liquid state, so it has to be solidified with adding of cement and lime. And finally, those cement blocks or the cementified, you can say solidified thing, has to be safely disposed. Safely disposed means in a concrete tank, underground tank, with double liner HDB system and totally isolated from other sources, environmental sources. It was safely disposed under our supervision, and it was totally covered. And not only that, we are monitoring that, because we have to ensure that arsenic or something is not leaking out from that site. So there are a lot of monitoring wells, and Pollution Control Board or even the industry or NEERI also keeps on monitoring that. So far, last almost more than 15 years, nothing has happened. It is safe.
How if you look at countrywide, do we have a big problem with hazardous waste, or what is the situation countrywide?
Countrywide situation in the sense, if you are having industrial processes and industrial, especially metal industries and then chemical industries, you are likely to produce hazardous waste, this form or that form. And since 2003 onwards, there is a regulation. So people, and there are facilities, they call it common treatment, storage, disposal facilities. So industry on payment basis have to give their waste to them. They will dispose either through incineration or landfilling. So quantum is there, obviously. You can go through the statistics available with CPCB or State Pollution Control Boards. So hazardous waste disposal is there, because there will be a limitation on landfill also. It's a landfill requires space. Like in Western countries, even Japan, they try to develop safe landfills within the seabed and other, but now it's not possible. Singapore is facing the same problem. Likewise, India being a huge country, but still we are likely to face that problem in coming years. So that has to be properly addressed. That's the issue. One way to address is to develop the processes which would generate less hazardous waste. So quantum has to be reduced. And second is, whatever hazardous waste is being generated, not all hazardous wastes are very toxic or not like cyanide, but they're constituted as hazardous waste. So there can be some recycle of those wastes. So the areas like circular economy, government is giving stress on circular economy. Government, even Niti Aayog is, ministries are involved into that. So circular economy things in which waste to wealth things are taken up, hazardous waste are targeted first. And that too, the hazardous waste which are generated in huge quantums, like CTP sludge, common effluent treatment plant sludge. This is hazardous waste, but something can be made. It's not very toxic, or it's not, you can say it's a high volume, low impact kind of thing. But yes, quantum is more, and that has to be properly converted or valorized and to be put into use with proper precautions, obviously. So efforts are being made to put hazardous waste into circular economy. So major issue will be reducing the quantum and giving space to other more toxic things. Yes.
Circular economy, waste to wealth, these sound very good, but are they easy to implement?
No, nothing. As a chemical engineer, basically I'm a chemical engineer. I know the engineering limitations. Yes, but attempts R&D cannot be stopped. Like once upon a time, production of antibiotics was seen as a difficult thing. After even, I think it may not be out of the way to quote here, although it's different. 1928, Alexander Fleming invented or discovered antibiotics. But to put it into practice, it almost took 20 years it needed to put it. It was difficult, but now it's very common thing. So yes, because as I said, and I always say that waste to wealth project should means your process should be designed in such a way that it should not create another waste. So you are while addressing waste, you should not generate another waste. So yes, there are many other waste which can be properly done. At times you have to sacrifice with the economics things, but then you have to look for the processes which are safe. But it is difficult, but it's not impossible.
So, sustainability is an important concept.
Sustainability is important concept. You have to succumb to sustainability, sir. I don't think. But as far as my job is concerned, as a NEERI scientist, or you can say director, sustainability has three basic components which everybody knows about that. One is environmentally soundness of the process or activity. Second is economic viability of that. And third is social acceptability. So NEERI is exclusively working for environmental soundness. So making the development environmentally sound, that should be our motto. We are working for that. Of course, other things, many other policy matters, like for economics, policy matters are required. Then social, lot of other institutions have to work in. But we are taking care of environmental sound as far as possible to the best of our knowledge and capability.
So, that was Dr. Atul Vaidya telling us about hazardous waste, about circular economy, about waste to wealth, and how sustainability should be a part but not easy to implement. His expertise lies in handling hazardous waste, which is the most difficult part of handling wastes. At NEERI Nagpur, Pallav Bagla.
Thank you.
Thank you.